boys and girls. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Welcome back to school. I know that Memorial Day is the kickoff to summer and everybody has barbecues and it's such a fun time. But Memorial Day is a very, very important holiday. So today, instead of doing IXL for 20 minutes, I'm going to do a read aloud all about Memorial Day. And then at the end, we can take a quiz together to see what we remember about Memorial Day and what we read. So come on over to the computer. And this book is on a site called Get Epic. And the title of the book is Let's Celebrate Memorial Day by Barbara de Robertis. And the book is going to teach us about Memorial Day. On the last Monday of May, we pause to remember all the brave men and women in our armed forces who died while protecting us. So I hope yesterday you took a moment to think about all the brave men and women that have protected us through the years. And so here we go. A very special holiday is celebrated on the last Monday in May, Memorial Day. It is the day we honor all the brave men and women in our armed forces who died while fighting to protect our country, our freedoms, and us. How did this important holiday come into being? How Memorial Day began. From 1861 to 1865, the American Civil War was fought. The northern states did not want to continue allowing slavery, but 11 southern states did. The southern states withdrew from the United States and formed a new country, the Confederate States of America. President Abraham Lincoln refused to recognize this new country, so the North's Union soldiers and the South's Confederate soldiers went to war. When the war ended, the United States was united again, and slavery would soon be ended. But over 500,000 soldiers had died fighting on the two sides of the war. Far more soldiers than have died in any other American war. The whole country grieved. Now, boys and girls, remember those dates of the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, because that's going to be on our quiz at the end. Decoration Day. During and after the Civil War, graves of fallen soldiers on both sides were decorated in honor of their sacrifices. In 1868, General John Logan issued a proclamation. Decoration Day should be held on May 30th every year. He chose that date because flowers would be in bloom and could be used to decorate the graves of all those who died in the Civil War. A large observance was held that year at Arlington National Cemetery near Washington, D.C. Speeches were given, followed by people placing flowers on both Union and Confederate graves while singing hymns and saying prayers. I think it skipped a page. Give me a minute. The annual ceremony at Soldiers National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, also began in 1868. Gettysburg was the scene of the Civil War's most famous battle. 7,000 soldiers died, more than in any other battle. In July of 1913, veterans of the Union and Confederate armies gathered in Gettysburg to mark the 50-year anniversary of this battle. It was called a blue-gray reunion because the Union soldiers' uniforms were blue and the Confederate uniforms were gray. There were speeches, parades, and reenactments of the battle. Decoration Day changes to Memorial Day. Decoration Day gradually became known as Memorial Day, a name first used in 1882. After the end of the First World War in 1918, the holiday also changed from honoring only those who died in the Civil War. It now honored members of the military who died in any American war. In 1948, members of the Army's 3rd Infantry began a Flags In tradition at Arlington National Cemetery. Just before Memorial Day, they placed flags on the graves of all the service members buried there. Now more than 300,000. Veterans groups, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and other groups across America also place flags on service members' graves for this holiday. Memorial Day officially became the official name of the holiday in 1967. So years ago it was Decoration Day, and now we call it Memorial Day. National Holiday Act of 1971. In 1971, Congress moved Memorial Day from May 30th to the last Monday in May. And that's why we just celebrated it now, because it was the last Monday of May. Many people feel this change led to viewing the new 3-day weekend as the unofficial beginning of summer. So people often celebrate with picnics and camping trips, swimming pools open, stores hold Memorial Day sales. With so much going on, people sometimes forget the real reason for the holiday. National Moment of Remembrance. In 2000, Congress passed a resolution to help restore the true meaning of Memorial Day. The National Moment of Remembrance invites all Americans to stop for a moment of silence at exactly 3:00 p.m. local time on Memorial Day. During this moment of silence, we are asked to remember all those who died defending our country's freedoms. This is one way we can put the memorial back in Memorial Day. Poppies. A Canadian soldier in the First World War was inspired to write the poem In Flanders Fields when he saw bright red poppies blooming on the graves of soldiers buried there. After reading this poem, an American teacher named Moyna Michael decided to wear a poppy on Memorial Day to honor those who had died in that war. She sold poppies to her friends and gave them money to help veterans. Soon afterward, both the American Legion and the Veteran of Foreign Wars began to give away poppies made by disabled veterans. Donations from people receiving the poppies were given to veterans in need of help. Today, the poppies are most often given away on or near Memorial Day and Veterans Day. The poppy has become a symbol of honoring the dead and helping the living. And sometimes you see them in front of the food store. You'll see some veterans handing out poppies. Memorials for those who died in wars and conflicts. Beautiful memorials have been built to honor those who died fighting for our country. It is our way of making sure their sacrifices are not forgotten. And it is comforting for many of the families and friends of those who died to see tributes honoring their loved ones. All of these memorials remind us of our history and of the price of freedom. The Civil War, 1861 to 1865. On the anniversary of President Lincoln's most famous speech, the Gettysburg Address, volunteers in period clothing light candles at Gettysburg National Cemetery. A luminaria honors every soldier who died at Gettysburg. First World War 1917 to 1918. The National World War I Museum and Memorial is in Kansas City, Missouri. In 1926, more than 150,000 people gathered to see the Liberty Memorial Tower dedicated by President Calvin Coolidge. Museum exhibits are below the Memorial Tower and in buildings on either side. At night, steam rises from the top of the tower. Red lights make the steam look like fire. The Second World War, 1941 to 1945. The World War II Memorial is in Washington, D.C. A wall containing more than 4,000 gold stars pays tribute to the 400,000 Americans who died in this war. That's a lot of Americans that died in that war. Granite columns representing the states and territories form two half circles around the rainbow pool. Two pavilions represent the Atlantic and Pacific fronts on which American forces fought. The Korean conflict, 1950 to 1953. The Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. contains a patrol squad, 19 stainless steel statues of soldiers walking through a field. A black granite wall displays over 2,400 images of the land, sea, and air troops who supported the foot soldiers. One part of the granite wall is inscribed, "Freedom is not free." The Vietnam conflict, 1955 to 1975. The V-shaped Vietnam Veterans Memorial is also in Washington, D.C. The wall is polished black granite with a mirror-like surface. On it are listed the names of the more than 58,000 Americans who died or went missing in the Vietnam War. Middle East and worldwide conflicts. The Middle East Conflicts War Memorial is in Marseille, Illinois. The wall of granite panels was built to honor the thousands of women and men in our armed forces who have died in worldwide conflicts since 1979. Every year, the names of the women and men who have died during the previous year are etched into the granite slabs right after Memorial Day. Family members who visit war memorials often leave medals, flowers, or photos near the names of their loved ones. Each name inscribed on a wall is someone's son or daughter. It may also be someone's sister or brother or husband or wife or mother or father. On Memorial Day, we remember those who died as well as those who must carry on without them. The National Memorial Day Concert. The National Memorial Day Concert takes place on the lawn of the United States Capitol building on the Sunday evening before Memorial Day. Patriotic music is performed and tribute is paid to the men and women who have given their lives for our country. The concert is broadcast on both radio and television. The American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial. In 2015, the National Memorial Day Concert honored not only those who have died, but also those who survived with permanent disabilities. The new American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial is dedicated to those courageous heroes and the challenges they and their families must face every day. The memorial includes a star-shaped fountain with an eternal flame in the center. 3 walls of green glass tell stories of disabled soldiers with their images and their words. Memorial Day observances. When the flag is raised on Memorial Day morning, it is first raised to the top of the staff, then it is slowly lowered to half staff in honor of the men and women who have given their lives serving our country. At noon, the flag is again raised to full staff as a reminder that we must continue our freedoms. The Memorial Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery begins at 11 a.m. Flags will have been placed on more than 300,000 graves. A wreath-laying ceremony and concert are held at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. At 12 o'clock noon, the Rolling Thunder motorcycle rally begins. The thousands of riders who take part are demonstrating their support for improving veterans' benefits. The National Memorial Day Parade begins at 2 o'clock p.m. in Washington, D.C. In addition to being televised, it is broadcast live to our troops stationed around the world. It includes service members and veterans, service clubs, marching bands, floats, celebrities, and more. It is the largest Memorial Day event in the nation. There are also thousands of smaller parades and ceremonies held in cities and towns across the United States, and the National Moment of Remembrance is observed at 3 o'clock p.m. Memorial Day and Veterans Day. 2 important national holidays honor our women and men in the military. Memorial Day on the last Monday in May honors all those who died while serving in the United States Armed Forces, particularly those who died in battle. Veterans Day on November 11th honors everyone who has served in the military, both the living and the dead. Similar events are held on both holidays: parades, ceremonies, concerts, school programs, and poppy distributions. But it is important to remember the difference between the two holidays. And boys and girls, you'll remember we made a special poster on Veterans Day at school. On Memorial Day, we think about the more than 1 million men and women who died defending our country, our freedoms, and us. We feel deeply grateful to every one of them. Many of us have family members who died defending America and its ideals. On Memorial Day, we can share stories about them. We can look at photographs or letters or personal items they left behind, and we could try to imagine how much they loved our country, so much that they are willing to die protecting it. Freedom is not free. Now, boys and girls, there's a little quiz. So let's see what we can remember about Memorial Day. When is Memorial Day celebrated every year since 1971? The last Monday in May, May 31st. The third Monday in May, May 30th. I hope that you remember that it is always the last Monday in May. We got that correct. What time is the National Moment of Remembrance observed every Memorial Day? 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or 9 o'clock? And I believe it was 3 o'clock. Did you think that too? We got that correct. What are poppies the symbol of on both Memorial Day and Veterans Day? A symbol that honors those that died and those still living, a symbol for the American Legion, a symbol of the national flower of Canada, the money raised to help veterans. And I hope you remember that we use poppies for both Memorial Day and Veterans Day because it's for those that died and for those that are still living. So I'm going to click that top one, and we got it correct. On Memorial Day, what are the 3 positions that the American flag holds on the flagpole throughout the day? Half staff, 3/4 staff, full staff, half staff, full staff, half staff, full staff, half staff, 3/4 staff, full staff, half staff, full staff. And I think it's half staff, full staff, and then half staff. What memorial pays tribute to 400,000 Americans who died during wartime? Now that's a lot of Americans that died in that war. Boys and girls, do you remember what war that was? The Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the World War II Memorial, the National World War I Museum, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and I believe the World War II Memorial. And we got that correct. In what year did Decoration Day officially become known as Memorial Day? And that was 1918, 1948, 1967, or 1882. And I believe, if you agree with me, 1967. And we got that correct. What memorial has a granite wall inscribed, "Freedom is not free"? The World War II Memorial, the National World War I Museum, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and I want to say it is the Korean War Veterans Memorial. The American Civil War was fought from what year to what year? And those were the dates I mentioned in the beginning. Do you remember those dates? 1861 to 1865. Which memorial has 3 walls of green glass stating stories of disabled soldiers with their images and their words? Now, the key word here is the disabled soldiers. And remember, boys and girls, that was the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial. One more question. What time does the Memorial Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery begin? 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or 3 o'clock. And I believe it's held at 11 o'clock. And we got that correct. And boys and girls, on our Memorial Day quiz, we got 10 out of 10 correct, 100%. And I hope you learned something very special. So though we have these wonderful barbecues and we spend time with our families, we are really honoring those soldiers that fought for our country. Have a great week, boys and girls. Bye.